You're listening to the VICK757 podcast featuring Dwight and Michael Vick talking all things tech.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the VICK757 show, talking all things tech. I'm your host, Dwight Vick, former all-conference offensive lineman from the late 90s. Alongside with me is my young cuz, MV7, Michael Vick, Player of the Year, Heisman finalist, Philadelphia Eagles and Atlanta Falcons. Great. We're back after taking a week off, scheduling issues, but we're back to talk all things tech. But as we talked about in preparation for this show, Mike, we want to take a moment here to shed light and show our love and prayers for the victims involved in the UVA tragedy. As we both tweeted and everybody's been talking about it, our thoughts and prayers are with the UVA football program, the alumni, the students, the presidents, Coach Elliott, the faculty. You and I both have a lot of friends and guys we competed against on a collegiate and professional level from UVA. Marcus Higgins, my guy, Elton Brown,
Bobby Blizzard.
Well, Bobby Blizzard went to Kentucky.
I'm thinking, UVA, but Donnie Holly.
Dwight, Donnie Holly.
Those guys,
all those guys, man. But I also wanted to make sure we get their names right. I want to make sure I read their names off. But Lavelle Davis Jr., Devin Chandler, and Deshaun Perry. May you guys rest in peace. Prayers to your family. I know there's another victim that survived that just had surgery, but I'm not going to speak too much on it. Just offer our thoughts and prayers. I mean, we went through it years ago, being affiliated with Virginia Tech in 2007 with the shootings, and it's never going to go away. But at the same time, we pray that God has healing and mercy over everybody involved. And just a sad thing, man. You know, your daughter's getting ready to go to school. And my daughter's a freshman at ODU, and it doesn't matter what school you're affiliated with, doesn't matter, these kind of tragedies never feel right. And it's sad. So we just want to take a moment to just shed some love and prayers on everybody involved, man. Tough situation, man.
Tough situation. Well said, Dwight, and condolences go out to the family, and it's just tragic. The world we live in and things that we can't control nowadays, and us as parents and with young kids and that's going off to college soon, it's a lot to be concerned about. And I hope that people look at this situation and realize that we have to put more time and effort into security and making sure that people are safe, everyone. And all these things continue to happen. Like we was Virginia Tech and the tragedy that happened within our school, we still mourn that to this day. So we just gotta continue to, search for positivity, man, and let that be the staple of how we live our lives.
And I think one thing I'm very proud of, and this is obviously it's a tragedy and it's sad, but one thing I'm very proud of is that yourself, myself, the Virginia Tech community, the fans, the Hokie Nation, Coach Brent Pry, our former teammates, everybody involved, teachers, educators, ODU, Women Mary, Norfolk State, Hampton University, everybody across the Commonwealth, across the country. I saw Patrick Mahomes tweeting. Everybody is showing love and empathy for everybody involved. And final thought on this is I just hope, even as things, as we continue to move forward, not just like what you said, not just have more awareness and protocols and procedures, but we also continue to keep this empathy and this energy when it comes to respect. Obviously, sports is sports and competition, and we're going to talk and compete. But when it comes to being empathetic and aware and showing that love and respect, you can have that energy outside of the game.
It's just insane. It's just mind-boggling that people get their lives taken over senseless forms of thinking, irrational thinking. So that being said, cuz we're gonna have us a positive show today, and we're gonna keep the momentum going, and everybody continue to spread positivity. Let's go.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. So our Hokies are back at it, man. You know, we had another tough
It's a rough
showing.
week.
A rough week, man. We went to Duke, and Danny Noakes is getting ready to jump on this Noakes segment to break down that game and preview this weekend at Liberty. It was I was watching the game on my phone, and I was watching the game on TV because on Saturday afternoon I was running. My son had basketball stuff. He had media day for high school, so I was watching it, and I was okay. You know, we were in the game. It was a 3-point game. We were in it, and in the second half, once again, our lack of depth showed. We didn't have penalties, but we just didn't seize the moment again, man. And now we're officially out of bowl contention. I think that was last week, and we're definitely out of it now. With 8 losses. So, I just hope that they have a good showing this weekend against Liberty. I mean, it's going to be tough because Liberty is 8-1. They're playing great football. Hugh Freeze
Don't
has
tell
them
me that.
focused.
Liberty 8-1.
Yes, they're 8-1. They beat Arkansas.
So now we're playing spoiler. Okay. All right. This is what it is. We're playing spoiler. They looking to go to a bowl game. A couple extra Nike bags and some cleats.
Yeah.
The bowl game accessories. Nah.
I mean, it's you got to play spoiler. I mean, and truth be told, this very may well be because we don't know what's going to happen with our brothers down in Charlottesville they had to cancel that game, rightfully so, for this weekend against Coastal Carolina.
This could be the last game.
This could be, the last game. I know there's a lot of speculation which we want to get into, but if you're a senior, you better just make sure you make the most of it this weekend and you show out. This is essentially your bowl game against a very good team at Liberty. Yeah,
man, it's gonna be quiet in Blacksburg this offseason. We're gonna keep it rolling though. We're gonna continue to, keep our show going and figure out how we fix this and how we make this right. It's amazing that Liberty is 8-1. That goes to show how much I'm following college football. I'm following it enough. I'm catching the big games. I'm catching the most important games.
Yeah.
Prime time games. See, we got to get back to prime time.
Yeah.
It was a time when we was on at 3:30, 8 o'clock, Thursday night, continuously. Even the game against UVA on Friday nights was like publicized like heavy.
No. I mean, it was one of those things, man, where I was talking on Twitter with some fans how we used to be in the midst of not just in the top 5, top 10, but we were, a dark horse for the national championship, and we were relevant. And I think to some degree, a lot of fans and alumni took that for granted because it was always 10, 11 win seasons at the worst, 9 wins, 8 wins on a down year. And now, we struggling to get 3 wins, and it's just so far removed. But, I know you can't talk too much because you got some things brewing, but recruiting should get going. You got some things on the horizon you're working on. We won't get too much into that, but at the same time, man, we got to get those. We got to get those guys that program changes. We got to get them.
I think it's important. I think this is a big off season for us. I think collectively, we can find ways to find who's out there, who will be considered a Virginia Tech, type of player. I'm enjoying just hearing the process of how it's going right now, and especially seeing the kids that's out there. There's some very talented kids down in Virginia. I'll just say that, and abroad, and especially out in Florida as well. So I think we gotta, just we gotta look at it from a different landscape and start tapping into different markets and bring all these players together from different places and different backgrounds and coach them up and let them rock. And, hopefully, I can, train a couple quarterbacks this year that Tech might be interested in and get some work in with them and get them ready for the next level so that, our yearly quarterback camps is consistent and considered to be one of the best. So, we've kept it under wraps for the last couple of years, but we're going to make a splash this year. So hopefully Tech like some of the guys that's out there and maybe want to, bring in a quarterback or two.
Yeah, well, you mentioned quarterback. Tech fans gonna perk up, because
Yeah,
that's always a topic with Virginia Tech fans since
yeah.
you left and Gerard Evans and guys like that. But speaking of greatness, we got a great guy who comes in always when he joins the show. My guy, Danny Noakes, man, is here for his segment. Noakes, man. 1067 fans the own. Danny Noakes, how you doing, Danny?
Danny
I'm
Dent,
doing good. I'm doing good, gentlemen. How are we this week? Doing all right?
We're good,
I'm
man. We
great.
just we just paid homage to the UVA
Yeah,
football players and their families. I mean, you can never do enough and say enough, but I know you've been aware and been
yeah.
following it, man. So, did you have a few thoughts that you want to say before we jump into your segment?
Yeah, man. I wanted to extend, our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers, everything, because it's obviously a senseless tragedy that happened on campus over there in Charlottesville not too long ago. And it's unfortunately for us at Virginia Tech a familiar feeling that we know all too well, especially for someone like me. I live with someone that was on campus at Virginia Tech in 2007. I wasn't there myself, but I know it brings up a lot of bad memories. And for those that obviously in Charlottesville right now still going through it, we're here for you and we support you. Just it's a horrible, horrible situation, and just hoping that everyone can find some comfort at some point in the hopefully not too distant future.
Absolutely, man. Well said, and I agree wholeheartedly, man. Danny, again, great jumping on, man. I just want to make sure we read the Hall of Fame Sports promo that sponsors your segment. Hall of Fame Sports has been a sponsor for us this season. They put on the biggest show in Cooperstown featuring all of the baseball Hall of Famers. They do events in New York and New Jersey with basketball and football's biggest stars, and they bring athletes to events all over the country. Like, follow, and subscribe to their social media at Hall of Fame signings. They're also on Twitter. Make sure you stop by the website for all future signing and updates and events. And if you can't get there, mail them the paraphernalia and they can get it signed for you. So, Danny, once again, thank you for those thoughts. It's great to see you. We were off last week. I know you saw Tech. I know you've had mixed emotions because your Hokies let you down, but your Washington Commanders had that big win over Mike's Eagles.
That's right, Mike.
Yeah,
That's
So
right.
you had a
That was shocking.
It shocked us all, dude. I
yeah.
I had some plays this game on FanDuel on Monday night, and they were not in favor of the Commanders. That's what we up in DC like to call the emotional hedge, because we don't often see our teams win, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, but here they are, man. I'm rooting hard this year. I'm a big fan of Jalen Hurts, but
Mhm.
I will say it was cool to see Heineke. He's a great story, and they play hard for him. But we're talking all things Tech, and Virginia Tech, unfortunately, continues their trend of losing. They had two tough losses, 1-point losses to NC State and Georgia Tech. Both games you really can argue should have won. I don't think even the other teams would disagree with us. Tech had both games locked in. Then they went to Duke, and they were in that game as well. And then the bottom fell out, and they lost to Duke. First time since, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was the first time since 1981 Duke has beaten Virginia Tech in Durham.
Mm.
So all types of disappointment, but Pry and his staff continue to feel like they're close. I talked to Pearson Prelo. He feels like, the young guys are stepping up, and it's just a matter of time. But what are your thoughts about that game? And, as we move forward to, finish up the season, what are you thinking and what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think we're at the point where reality has set in, right, guys? I mean, we were sitting here at the beginning of the season projecting somewhere between 6 and 8 wins, just depending on how optimistic you were. And now Virginia Tech is probably not going to win more than 3. I anticipate that Virginia Tech and UVA will probably get canceled, and understandably so, because of what the Cavaliers and their program and the school overall are dealing with. That's more than understandable, actually, if you ask me. So that would make this Liberty game coming up on Saturday Virginia Tech's last game of the season. And I'm just going to move forward with that mindset, because that's just kind of where it seems like things are trending right now.
Yep.
But with there being 7 losses in a row, we're in unprecedented territory. I mean, this is not something that even I think at Beamer's worst times, at Fuente's worst times, and that encapsulates my lifetime as a person, and certainly as someone that went to Virginia Tech. We've never been here before. And I think at some point, and we've probably talked about this, at some point there was going to need to be a full rebuild at Virginia Tech, because the Hokies, that program is just a school that's not going to just sort of inherit what it needs to in terms of recruiting and resources and everything that goes into what makes you a juggernaut in college football today.
Yep.
And it takes a lot. It takes more than even a village to make that happen. So I think Brent Pry really inherited a tough situation here, between there being so many guys that have left over the last couple of years, guys that left after Justin Fuente did, and being a brand new head coach, bringing in brand new offensive and defensive coordinator. It all really seems to have shown itself more and more each week. And, the Duke game looked worse than the Georgia Tech game, which, maybe was even a little bit more frustrating than NC State, because Dwight, like you said, they had both NC State and Georgia Tech beat dead to rights. And really it feels like either one of those games, particularly NC State, though, because it was a road game, they were a ranked team at the time, and that really seemed like it could be a signature win for Brent Pry in his first year, and it slipped away so quickly. And the same thing happened against Georgia Tech, but that was a home game, and that was a much less talented Georgia Tech team. Even if NC State was missing a lot of guys, particularly the starting quarterback, we talked about how Virginia Tech, we could stomach, I think as a fan, we can stomach losing games in a season like this, where we just laid out everything that Brent Pry is going through and he's inherited. But the key was that they would be getting better each week. And I don't necessarily see them improving in any facet of the game, right? Whether it's the defensive or offensive side of the ball. I'm watching them slip nationally in their offensive ranking and their defensive ranking. They went from 118 to 120 in the country on offense. I mean, out of 131 FBS teams, you're telling me that there's only 11 teams beneath Virginia Tech? There's no way, even in your worst season, that should ever be acceptable. And I think the coaching staff shoulders that. I think that they understand that we are now in uncharted waters, but the defense is starting to slip too. And that was supposed to be Brent Pry's strong suit. So, if there's anything to look forward to in this Liberty game, it's that you would hope they're going to turn it loose and that they have nothing left to lose. Probably going to be their last game of the season, and they just go out and play like their hair's on fire. Because, I mean, let's be real. There's the procedural issues, all the penalties, all the undisciplined stuff. It's still happening,
Yeah.
and it's really tough to watch.
This, my thing is, I really look at this and feel like the NC State loss and the Georgia Tech loss was deflating. Like, we was in a position that we was gonna win those games, and everything was going well. And it's like, if you could just hold on, this would be, honestly, signature wins. And when those things happen, guys start to look around in the locker room, and the way this, you just hope that the message is not getting lost now from a coaching standpoint, because after a while it starts to sound repetitive. Well, we'll do it next week. But next week we got to do this, and now you're thinking, okay, next week I got to be better. I got to do, and it's the same thing. And these the losses in college football, they are so devastating, just to the mind, body, and soul, that even these young men feel the wrath of just media and pressure, and so you can start to tank. I'm ready to get this Liberty game going. Hopefully we win this game, and we can feel good about it going into the offseason, because like you said, Dan, I don't think we're gonna finish the season up with UVA, and rightfully so. But hopefully that message is not getting lost, and guys are staying optimistic even in tough times.
Yeah, Danny, I agree. You go ahead, Danny. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it. We've placed we've talked about how everybody shares part of the blame, right? I think in our last show we talked about how when it comes to some of these procedural issues, right, false starts and getting lined up correctly, a lot of it does fall on the players because you have to execute to a certain point. But obviously the coaching staff has mismanaged certain parts of the game, and they haven't been particularly prepared going into some of these matchups. But if you when it comes to optimism and going into this Liberty game, Liberty's 8-2. They're a very good football team. They got a good defense.
8-2?
Yep.
Okay, I apologize. I said earlier they were 8-1. They're 8-2. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they just lost to UConn. Their only 2 losses are to Wake Forest. Right. Wake Forest, obviously, we know is a good football team, and UConn, who's having a surprisingly good season. Yeah. So this could also be a signature win for Virginia Tech. I'm not trying to place any expectations on this game or the fan base. You guys should expect them to win this game. I'm not saying that at all. I'm definitely not expecting Virginia Tech to win this game, but that could play into their favor. We just talking about how they go out there kind of nothing to lose, hairs on fire. That's something that you could at least, get fired up to go and play an in-state rival at this point, when a team that beat you the last time that you were playing on their turf and probably should have won that game, considering Fuente called that timeout when they returned the blocked field goal for a touchdown.
Yeah, that was you bringing up a painful one because they won that game, and then everyone looks and Coach Fuente called that timeout. Mm-hmm. This, the thing about this team, and we're all connected to Virginia Tech, the university, especially the football program. The one thing I've noticed is that many of the younger guys that are like redshirt freshmen and sophomores, when given the opportunity, have made some plays. This is not to dismiss the Dax Hollyfields or the Tisdale, who the linebacker said he's coming back, because he has that COVID year, which I'm happy to see. He's a very good player. He'll be big for them next year. But like the kid Tucker Holloway returns a 90-yard punt return. Mm-hmm. You have that kid number 21, the redshirt freshman linebacker that had the batted ball, and then he got the pick 6 against Georgia Tech. There have been some flashes. I just feel like culturally, after this season with recruiting and also the offseason, I've never really been part of a rebuild. I've been part of a building. Mike and I, helping Beamer start that run. But I do think, back when I played on all levels, the culture, the leadership is what kind of gets that program going. And I just, the theme I've said in the offseason leading up to our show and other platforms, including when I jumped on with you, Danny, on 106 is, learning how to win and knowing how to win are two different things. Knowing how to win is one of those things where it doesn't matter the deficit. We can talk about Mike's and Deshaun and those guys years ago in the Miracle in the Meadowlands 2 against the Giants. When you watch Mike and them play, it didn't matter. They just felt like they were going to win. Same thing when him and Sharon, those guys played at Tech, or when I played, or Danny, you covered teams, in NBA or the Nats and the Washington Commanders. When you have a team that knows how to win versus learning how to win, there are two different things. And teams that are learning how to win, it's a process, and it's a painful process for fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Danny. You cover this team. When you look at Brent Pry and you look at his staff, when you look at what they've established, some bright spots, you talk about it trending in the wrong direction, but just to give some fans some silver lining, something to hold on to, which might be just a couple of things. What are some things, I mentioned Tucker Holloway and a few other things, what are some things that you think going into the offseason they can build on?
Well, Tucker Holloway is particularly an interesting situation because the last time I heard, they were still undecided on whether or not they were going to pull his red shirt. Now that the red shirt rules are a little bit more lenient, where a guy can play, I think, in up to 4 games and still be able to hold on to his red shirt. That's great, and I think that's probably how it should be. He's obviously has potential to be an explosive player. I mean, he had a huge play in a major ACC game, at least for Virginia Tech. It wasn't top tier Power 5 competition right there, but he's still a guy that warrants some consideration for being a key contributor going forward to this program, right? And what, Dwight, you ask about what other things that we can be optimistic about as we head towards the off season, and it's going to be the off season here in the next couple of weeks, no matter what, because Virginia Tech's not going to go to a bowl this year, unfortunately. But a few shows ago, I talked about how if you look at the recruiting rankings and rankings are all, subjective, right? It's a lot of it's opinion based, and there's no perfect way to go about it. But if you look at the recruiting rankings in the state of Virginia, and there was a color coded graph that I had come across my timeline a few weeks ago, and there was a lot of blue and white for Penn State. There was some blue and orange for UVA. There were a couple of other schools too from the SEC. There was some Alabama in there, but the color that was most frequent on there was sitting right in the middle of the graph, and it was maroon and orange, and it was Virginia Tech. And I think that so far the strength of this staff has been in their ability to recruit and their ability to get out and talk to these high school coaches, to get in the schools, to go and watch these kids play. They're establishing relationships. They're putting roots down. They're building relationships, and they're good at that. So I think they need to continue to leverage their ability to, connect with these coaches and these student athletes, and try and get the guys that are going to fit what their vision is for the future of Virginia Tech football.
Danny, I know Mike might have one last question, but I'll just say this, man. I know it was trending a few weeks ago. After the loss to Georgia Tech, we got a commit from Highland Springs.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, Loren Johnson's son, one of the high-profile recruits out of Highland Springs who had several D1 offers, it just popped up. He put together a video. Mike tweeted, retweeted. Everyone was retweeting it. And it was a video of all the commits so far telling Hokie Nation to stay together.
Hold on.
We got this. Hold on. Help is on the way, so to speak. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
I've been following Tech. I follow Oklahoma, Alabama, Tennessee. I love college football. I've rarely, if I ever seen a video put together by high school commits telling the fan base that we are going to change this thing. Help is on the way. Did you see that, Danny?
I did, and I was just so blown away because I don't want to overhype anyone. I don't want to place
I know what we don't want to get carried away. I
don't want to. I don't want to give anybody any accolades before that they've played any downs. But just hearing Loren Johnson, and we've talked to him, Dwight, Mike, you've talked to him too. But we had him on the podcast earlier this year, and hearing him talk about his son Braylon, I know he's. It's an interesting balance that he has to do because he's his son, but he's also one of his best players. So there's hard coaching there, but you have to know where to separate it. I have high hopes for that young man, and I think that he is a natural born leader. And we'll see when he gets to campus. We'll see. Again, that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
But I think the video was a good example.
It was a good example. Pearson Prello said he's one of the smartest guys, and he's not at Tech yet. Just a smart guy, and we're looking to have Pearson Prelo and Coach DJ on our upcoming episode. So, no, I just, I was very intrigued by that video, and I was like, wow, because there's some guys. I'll say it on the VICK757 show, talking all things Tech. I'm high on Braylon, and it's not me being biased because Loren Johnson is my brother. Mm-hmm. I've seen him play. I follow Highland Springs. I saw them against Stonebridge. I'm also high on the kid at Battlefield High School in Haymarket, Virginia, up here where I'm at. Caleb Woodson is 6'4" linebacker/safety. He is a specimen, and he is a guy that fits that lunch pail. He's a big physical guy. He can play both sides. So,
what about the offensive side of the ball?
Well, we got
offensive commits, any quarterbacks, any receivers,
the quarterback.
I'm not worried about defense. I'm not worried about defense.
I need talent.
I'm just
gonna call it how I say. I'm not worried about where's the offense. We need points.
We do. Well,
Go ahead, Danny. That, and you know what, Mike, that should be the concern, right? Because the offense is the unit that is ranked 120th out of 131 FBS teams right now. The defense gets gashed, and they've had their struggles, but they've been top 50 for most of the year. I think they're sitting at like 62.
They're tired.
But they're tired because they're always on the field.
They get tired. Like so we need some sustainable drives.
Right.
We need a dual threat quarterback. Let's go. Yeah. It's time. Like one thing we're not gonna do in this show, we're not gonna sugarcoat anything.
Nah, man. Nah,
we can talk about what the necessities are. We're gonna go out and find the groceries, baby.
We need some playmakers.
Pry's vision for Virginia Tech is similar to what we saw in the early 2000s. He wants to play good defense and he wants to run the football. And I think that you do that by having a good offensive line. You have good tailbacks, but as Mike said, you also have someone that can get upfield at quarterback, someone that is a dual threat player.
Yeah, when you taking on that type of philosophy, your offense got to be catered towards those type of run sets. Like it's not to get too football complicated, but you gotta go old school football. You gotta go, one tight end, two backs, two receivers. Like we spent a lot of time in that because we was a run-oriented team where, you go one receiver, one back, three receivers, one tight end, one back, and you spread them out, but you gotta add a fullback. If you're gonna be hard nosed, you gotta have a fullback, H-back type of guy, and then you can't be in a shotgun all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to try to coach from afar, but I'm just saying, like, that's just football 101. Run the football, play defense. So, it's the offense got to be catered around making sure you put these players in the best position, if that's the philosophy.
No doubt. Well, look, playmakers, man. And I'll say this about the offense because Mike's right. And the offense has been an issue all year long, and the defense eventually has worn down. College football is a long but quick season, but the games, you don't have depth in the shows. But when I look at the offense, it's every game they'll have a big play or a nice drive, but then when they have a chance to seize the moment, blitz pickup is very poor. Passing off stunts is very poor amongst the offensive line. Grant Wells is holding the ball too long, indecisive. Yeah. He throws the short route too hard and not soft enough, and then he doesn't have a changeup. You have a chance to get a first down, you step out of bounds, drop balls, lack of confidence. Mm-hmm. So scheme aside, playmaking, people think, Deion Sanders, Mike Vick, Ryan Williams, D'Angelo Hall. Playmaking is making plays when you're supposed to make a play, including a block, including a catch, including diving for a first down, making sure you know where to go, not jumping off sides, not false starting, making plays in the red zone, coaches calling a play that makes sense, not wasting a timeout. That is what I've seen throughout this losing streak. And it starts all over the offense. And they know it. They've taken ownership, but you got to give playmakers and talent, but you also got to have guys that make plays. I mean, I'm an offensive lineman. I watch the O-line every play. They have the size and ability and athleticism, but awareness and blitz pickup has been lacking. I mean, there's times when, you can go to every game, even going back to ODU, when you just don't have enough, and those things cost you. And they got to fix it. And that's not really about just the recruiting piece. That's more so taking ownership. But, Mike is right. You got to get the guys in here. It'll be interesting because I'll say this, Danny, and I'll let you wrap up with, your response to this. I check in with Coach Pryor throughout the season. Hey, keep those guys locked. I don't like to bother coaches during the season because that's a tough job. He's got everybody, interviews, recruiting, parents, making sure guys are going to class. But I will say this. Whether you have Virginia Tech or UVA or Maryland, whether you are the head coach, after the offseason, you have to self-evaluate and make tough decisions. And that means whether you move a guy from offense to defense, or you make a personnel change, or you change up with play calling, or you demote a guy. Beamer had to do it.
Yep.
Other coaches had to do it. Do you think Coach Pryor, I know you don't know Coach Pryor, and I know this is his first year, and at Penn State he was a coordinator. Do you think he's going to have to make some tough decisions this offseason? I don't mean that, and that doesn't mean for people listening and watching, fire everybody. I mean, just tough decisions. Do you think that's coming up on the horizon?
I don't think that you have a season like the one that Virginia Tech has had. Again, I'm going to bring up that number 120, and I'm going to reiterate it because at what point in the last 30 years, has Virginia Tech's offense been that bad? Has it ever been this bad? Because I can't remember a point in time over the last 30 years where it's been this bad. I don't think that there's any way that you can't be in a position to make some of those tough decisions. And I'm also not going to sit here and just clamor for everybody's job, because I don't think it's that simple. There's so many different factors at play here that it's not one of them. Dwight, you were just talking about how the offensive line struggles to pick up the blitz sometimes. They can't figure out those stunts, pass guys off. They can't figure that out. But then Grant Wells is he's being indecisive. He holds onto the ball too long. Everybody shares part of this, right? And the coaching staff is certainly, they got to be at the top, actually, right? The coaches have to answer to this stuff first. So I think, there's got to be a long, hard look in the mirror this offseason, right? If you're Brent Pry, you came in as a brand new head coach. You knew that there was going to be struggles, right? But then you went and hired 2 brand new offensive and defensive coordinators in Tyler Bowen and Chris Marv, guys that had no experience being a coordinator. So where are you going to inject that new philosophy, that new energy into your offense? Because whatever was in place this year is not working, and maybe that changes as they start to bring some of their recruits in, but you're not going to get 5 years like Frank Beamer got it in before, he's really started to turn things around. You're not going to get that long. That's not how college football works anymore. What have you done for me lately is how it works. And so I don't know if everybody has to lose their job. And first of all, let's pump the brakes there, because, there are people clamoring for all sorts of folks' jobs, including Brent Pry's, and you guys got to understand. And I'm not talking to Dwight and Mike, because I know you guys understand, but Virginia Tech doesn't have the pockets to buy out Brent Pry's after 1 year.
We're not even.
Come on now,
nonsense, man. That's people. Them fans, I don't even pay.
We can't even go down that road right now. Honestly, I'm committed to Coach Pry. Like, yo,
me too.
Whatever we
I am
do.
too.
Whatever we got to do.
We all are, and that I think it's, that's obviously the section of the fan base that is very loud, but they're actually very
though. And we expect that, because look, that's expectations it comes in all forms, and definitely got to come direct from the fan base. So we got to appreciate that.
The bottom line is it's not acceptable. Right. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. I'm not saying that Bowen or Marv have to be demoted, and I don't necessarily think that either one of them will be off the staff next year. But there are obviously, something has to change. And I don't know that a bunch of new recruits are going to do that. You're going to have to look at some different ways to move the football, to protect the quarterback, to play defense.
That's what I mean.
Don't make me go pull out that 1999 playbook.
Yeah, man. Like
I got 7. Matter of fact, I got 12 playbooks, man, including that 99 playbook.
Wow.
And it's really simple. There's nothing complicated about it. Make my way up to the Berg and we can talk about it.
Hey, look, man, I'm for whatever works, man. But Danny, this has been great as always. We think you got to let you go. We're up against the clock. We got to bring our guest on. But once again, man, congrats on your win against Mike's Eagles. I know you were hyped. The Commanders, I call them the Commodores sometimes, but
it's understandable.
The Commanders, no, they look good, man. I'm Team Heineke, man. Your boy,
I love Heineke.
Ron, Coach Ron's got a tough decision to make.
No, he don't.
No, he doesn't.
No, he don't.
He doesn't. No, he doesn't. It's Heineke. It's Heineke. And
go ahead, D.
I was just gonna say, tune in 6:30 to 10 on Friday, 106.7 The Fan. I'll tell you all about why Heineke should be the guy the rest of the year.
There you go. There you go. For everybody in the DMV, man, check him out. Danny Noakes, 106.7 The Fan, DC. He's great. Friday night, put him on your radio, XM radio, iHeartRadio, whatever, your phone. He's got a great show, man. Danny, thank you, man. Be safe.
Danny.
Thank y'all. Love you guys. See you later.
All right, man.
You too, man.
That's Danny Noakes joining us, man. As always, man.
Hey, Dwight.
Yeah.
My brother just texted me, man. I know this is good for what we do. He want to know how can he tune in right now, because this boy Imoh about to come on.
Well, he gonna have to. We're recording it, so he gonna have to see it.
That goes to show how much he knows.
Yeah. I know Imoh is boy, man. As a matter of fact, I'm letting.
Shout out to Mark. Mark gonna come on in the next couple of weeks too.
I want. Tell.
Yeah, he already said he was coming. That's a done deal.
I want him on. I want him
Yep.
on. I want Marcus on because that's my guy. And Mark is must see TV, must listen radio, man. So
Yeah.
when we text him back, tell him I'll tag him. It'll be on, all the platforms. He can watch
Yeah.
Imoh. What's going on, gentlemen?
Yo, what's up, fellas?
What's up, baby?
We got two great guests, two phenomenal guests. They've been flexible with us, man. We had to call some audibles yesterday. We got one of the greatest linebackers in Virginia Tech football history, Virginia Tech Sports Hall of Fame linebacker Ben Taylor. One of the best, and also one of my favorite running backs, man, from the 703 up here where I live now, Nova, Mike Imoh. Imoh's in the building. What's good, gentlemen?
What's going on, fellas?
How's it going? Thanks for having us.
Imoh, what's good? What's up, Imoh? Long time no see, baby.
Oh, man. Life is good. I can't call it at all, man. Just put these kids down. Finally getting a second to myself. Favorite time of night.
You got the kids in bed early.
Yes, sir. They gotta go.
Yeah, my kids don't go to bed at 11:30, 12 o'clock.
Yeah,
my kids are 6 and 8, so
yeah,
they gotta go to bed, man.
You got that good structure. You got that good structure.
Gotta go to bed.
My wife has the structure with ours. I can't handle it. So I'm a late night dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can't. So she's got to take care of it.
Hey Ben, you a night owl, huh? You like me?
Yeah, I got to stay up late. And my dad was up late. He was always like, old school sports would come on at 11:20. Your local channels. My dad would call me out of bed, wake me up. I'd be up till 12:15 with my dad.
Don't get me wrong, I'm trying to stay up too. You know what I mean? But I just want them sleep.
Hey, Mike, Imoh, man. Mike, as you guys were coming on, as y'all logging on, Marcus was texting them saying, "Hey, man, how can I listen? How can I see it?" I said, "We air the show tomorrow." So you and I were talking yesterday, tripping about y'all connection and y'all brotherhood, man. So you got a fan in Mark, man. He's hyped to see you on, man. It's good to have you on.
Man, I'm happy to see Ben. Ben, I ain't seen you in so long, man. How you doing and where you at, Ben? Talk to me.
I'm living up here in Winchester, Virginia, not far from Mike. I'm a little bit out west, trying to stay out all the
You mean me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. We actually saw each other at the where were we at? The bounce house, the
Sky Zone. We took a picture.
Yeah,
I was there with one of my clients in the Victory Life program, and you came and we caught up, and I hadn't seen you, man, probably since middle drill.
Yeah, right. And I saw Mike.
Don't bring back old memories.
Yeah, and Mike, we were both inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2017. I think it was the last time we kind of rolled into each other. But it's 4 kids. I don't get back to tech nearly as much as I'd like to because there's something going on every Saturday. There's just like everybody, we're in that stage of life, and it's it's just busy. It's hectic.
Right. All right. No doubt.
No, man. No
what
doubt.
What about you, Imoh?
Go ahead, Imoh.
I'm in Loudoun County, so I'm in Leesburg, so probably 20, 30 minutes outside of DC, up in Northern Virginia, man. I'm financial advisor now at Edward Jones, been there for the last 10 years. And
nice.
So Ben, I didn't know you were in Winchester because my brother lives in Winchester, right?
I've followed your nephew,
Okay.
Hanley.
Yeah, he balling.
He was a stud, and down at William & Mary. And I've ran into your brother actually a couple times here and there. And we actually go to the same church, Victory Church. So I've seen him from time to time. So there's definitely a connection there.
I had no idea, man. I didn't know you're right down the road. We're always in town. That's awesome.
Well, I've been teaching for the last 12 years at a high school. And this year I just stepped back. I have several rental properties, and my side hustle was getting bigger than my main and trying to do all the crazy stuff. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Listen, this is great, and this is why I love having the former players on the Hokie Way Spotlight, because the thing about it is that fans know us as years ago. They cheered us on as athletes, and we had great plays. But you guys are great fathers and great professionals. I mean, that's huge, and that's what it's all about, man. That's the impact. But let me read this. Speaking of Hokie Way, let me read this promo before we get into the Hokie trivia and all the stuff we're gonna jump into. Hokie Way is sponsoring this segment of Mike Imoh and Ben Taylor. The Hokie Way is an independent nonprofit organization that will create active engagement with Virginia Tech student athletes for charitable goals. To include, raising funds to support charitable organizations across the Commonwealth through active engagement of Virginia Tech student athletes. That includes the NIL, name, image, and likeness. So we want to thank those guys and the Hokie Way sponsoring this segment. So, Mike, Imoh, Ben Taylor, man, you guys came after me, and I was a big fan of watching you guys play. Imoh, I still remember you in that big game on the road against North Carolina when you set that rushing record. I think it was later broke a few years later by Darren Evans, but you were in your bag that day, man, and you were killing them. That whole year, man, you and Cedric Humes were thunder and lightning. You led Virginia Tech to an ACC championship. Ben Taylor, you were a guy I was a big fan of. I remember going up to Philly, watching you and Mike, secure the conference title at Temple. You decapitated two guys, back-to-back hits that would get you targeted and kicked out the game. Now
I've been going a long time, and it was the same guy actually. Yeah. It was the same guy. So it turned out I didn't have anything against him. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
No, but you guys are fan favorites, man. And, we obviously love our Hokies. I know you guys are familiar with Brent Pride. We just had Danny Noakes on from 106.7 The Fan DC talking about the hardships we're rebuilding, but we all feel like he's the right guy to lead us. But we were all very fortunate to be part of some legendary and historic Virginia Tech football teams, man. I'll give you guys both a chance to talk about, your time, because I know fans appreciate that, even though we moved on. Imoh, I'll start with you, man. As I mentioned, you were a great back. I remember you returned to kickoff one game. I know your bag. I know your history. And you were small, but you played big. And I still remember, against Maryland on Thursday night, you shook that linebacker. You shook him bad. I think he ended up playing for the Chargers. You remember that run? It was on Thursday. Y'all beat Maryland 55-6. But those are my memories, man. Imoh, what do you remember about your days in the Bird, man?
I mean, you nailed them though, right? You nailed them. I mean, game wise, it's tough, right? Because I think I had a great career, but then at the same time, you just think about, like, naturally your brain spins you sometimes into like what could be in different situations and scenarios. And that sometimes is tough, and like overwhelming. So when you tell me about those things, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it was awesome. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we were good. Like, we were really, really, really good.
Who was your quarterback?
Good. And I had B. Randall. B. Randall.
Yeah, B. Randall. Okay.
And B. Randall was a winner now, so you know what I mean? He was just a flat out winner. We had a lot of guys: Eddie Royal, Jimmy Williams, Josh Morgan,
D'Angelo.
Yeah, D'Angelo. I mean, we had a lot of guys. So
right?
Very talented football team. Very talented football team.
And then you spent time with KJ?
I spent time with, I swear to you, I don't know if anyone at Tech had a better spot than what I had to see what I got to see. Because I got Kevin, KJ, I got Lee, and then I got to see Brandon Orr.
Wow.
Right? So I'm in between all that. I'm the worst one of all them guys, if you ask me. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Them guys are both amazing. So, like, the things I used to see in practice used to just absolutely blow my mind.
Yeah.
Like absolutely blow my mind about them guys, man. Like that's sometimes for me with watching Virginia Tech, sometimes that's what hurts. Yeah. The most. Yeah. I'm like, man, I'm like, man, there was like 20 years of like just back after back after back, and you was gonna have hell on wheels dealing with us. Yeah. And but football's changed. So I guess I can't. I thought it was still about blocking and tackling though, but they tell me it's changing.
Ben can tell us about tackling.
A little bit.
What about you, Ben? What you remember?
Well, I tell you what, I think of all the coaches and the good teammates. I mean, we had such great chemistry for those years that we were there. And you talk about your running backs coach, Coach Height. You know what I mean? The stable. I mean, that brotherhood that you guys had. I mean, it showed, like you said, 20 years, and Coach Height was a major part of that. And just how he approached, he knew what was important, what wasn't important, what he would get you for, what he wouldn't. And I think we had a lot of guys like that. And during my time, I think we had a lot of guys that were, we kind of had a chip on our shoulder a little bit to a lot of extent. And I think that's a lot of what Tech was kind of built on. I wasn't a highly recruited guy. We kind of got a last-minute scholarship, came in the spring. Mike, maybe even you know, you weren't highly recruited, and
Right.
Mike Vick. I mean, Ronald Curry was overshadowing you in many respects. So I think, you know, we had a lot. Andre Davis, who did not have, you know, he was a soccer guy and a track guy out of New York. I mean, there's so many guys, if we go through that had something to prove. And I feel like, you know, if we can kind of get back to that a little bit, you know, I mean, it's tough. It's tough because the world we live in, you know, you got to have all these rankings and all this kind of stuff with stars. But, you know, my time just, you know, there was so much good chemistry and we had so many good people. And just everybody kind of looking out for you, pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my
it's funny being say that, Dwight, because I mean, if you look at our teams, bro, we just had an unbelievable chip on our shoulder. You talking about we was hungry and so humble.
Yeah.
At the same time, like we was a humble group. Yeah. But I don't like to look at it like this, but you know, we wasn't all highly recruited. I don't know if we was the guys that UVA didn't want. Because it's like UVA took their pick and then Tech got the rest. And I felt like I seen that trend and it just made me different towards UVA and college football in general.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think that was a huge part of our success, you know, and Coach Foster, you know, the GOAT, you know, he played on that too. And you know, amazing at pushing people and using every, you know, every challenge. He didn't call them challenges. They were all opportunities to show who you are and what you could be. And that was our walkthroughs, you know, down to Radford Inn. I mean, things changing. I mean, our late night meal was 2 chicken sandwiches and a ginger ale. I mean, come on now.
Yo, that's wild.
And Mike, you guys started like a crazy wave afterwards. Like from what you guys did, the foundation you guys laid was crazy because it was like, you know, like you said, at first it was like, you know, we would get the leftovers at Tech, but then it was like, I don't want. This is if you're a guy in Virginia, you know, like. You want to go to Tech.
Yeah.
Real. Like I almost feel like Ahmad Brooks and Percy Harvin were the ones that kind of like slipped through the cracks. But outside of those guys, they were coming to Tech for a good period of time. Like we had to stay on lock after. But that was because of what y'all, you know, the chip on y'all had on y'all shoulder for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Imoh, you're right, man. And those guys you mentioned, you and Ben both, the guys that didn't come, but the guys that came. I think that's the beautiful part, you know, about creating a legacy, a brotherhood that is eternal with the coaches, the alumni, but especially amongst us as players. I'm gonna ask you guys a interesting question, and you can answer any way you want, man. Ben, I'll start with you first. You know, a lot of times, you know, I'm the OG, and you know, whatever. You know, I talk to the young guys. I know quite a few guys at Tech. And that are playing, and they show me love and respect. It's a different ball game, as Imoh mentioned. It's a different time. You know, offense, the money involved, NIL, but it's still at the essence sports competition and effort and high football IQ. Ben, if you were, and I'm sure this will actually happen one day because Pride's making an effort to get us all back. If you were talking to the guys this weekend, you know, none of us were ever 2-8, whatever. But if you were there, you know, this weekend in the locker room, and what would you say? I'll start with you, Ben, first. What would you tell the defense? You know, like, you know, what would you do? Because it's tough, you know. But again, what would you say?
Well, I mean, there's always, you know, you got to play with passion, and that was what, you know, play with great emotion, and that was a staple of Coach Foster, no matter where you were and what you did. But one thing that I've kind of got, you know, I'm coaching. I've coached college football for 6 years. I've coached in middle school. I've coached flag football. I'm kind of doing.
That's right. I apologize. You have been coaching. That's right.
Yeah. I've kind of been in the game a little bit, but you know, probably one of the most powerful things that I have talked about, and if you look at it in a little bit bigger picture instead of just looking at records, is, you know, don't play for yourself. You got to play for something else, somebody, someone, something. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, a teammate. But, you know, play for, you know, maybe you have somebody in your family that has cancer, and then let them know that you're playing for them. So you're not, you know, because you'll let yourself down. I feel like a lot of times, you know, it'll slide. But when you can play and you know you're playing for somebody else, it gives you a greater purpose and a greater reason. And so, that's kind of one of the things I've hung on to the last couple of years. It can't be about you. You know, it's that big picture. Don't make it about you. Don't be selfish.
Yeah.
You know, make it about someone else and play for each other, whoever it is, a brother, a friend, your mother. You know, some people have had some tough lives to get where they are, and I think it's great to let those people know as well that you're playing for them, and they can see that on TV and how you play in your effort. So.
Great answer. I feel you on that, man. Just like a coach, you sound like Foster.
Man, I was about to say, man, you know, if I wasn't caught up in this situation, we're gonna have to hire Ben in a couple of years.
Ben, yeah, no doubt. I'm sitting here getting a little.
I'm thinking about what I used to play for.
Yeah, man. I'm going to actually use that. I'm letting everybody know.
I used to play with big dollar signs in my head. Like, some got to motivate you.
Yeah.
Some got to motivate you. Like, I want to give my mom a car.
Yeah,
yeah. That's actually true, though. No, that's true. Imoh, what's your 2 cents on the dollar that Ben just dropped, man? What would you say to the youngins?
Man, I mean, I don't know what the morale is. You know what I mean? When you got a record like what we have right now, you know what I mean? It's not good, obviously. So I feel like maybe, and I don't know if they've already done this, but it's almost like, do you try and like restore the pride and like kind of start to show them like who we were and the things that we've done before this, right? Like I take you down a trip down memory lane of Bud Foster's defense is just crunching cats just over and over and over again. Those videos still now just give me the chills. Like when I watch them, like little quick promo videos of them defenses that we had. Same thing, like on the offensive side of the ball, just us beating people up. Like I'm letting you know, like there's guys that were here before you. There's people that love you. You know what I mean? There's people that this means a lot to, and you know, go out there and play with some pride.
Yeah, and you know you're right, Imoh, too, because I mean, even when I'm asked now, 20 years later, I don't ever remember, especially when we went live back when, now, they don't go full pads all the time, practice, I quick. But I never in my 5 years at Tech ever had an easy practice, except for maybe Thursday.
Yeah.
Bud Foster's, not even Bud. And
I didn't practice Monday through Wednesday, though. I was coming back on like Thursday. I didn't want nothing to do with Tuesday practice.
You were smart. You were like Vegas.
young Wednesday.
Yeah. See, I didn't have that luxury because Coach Grimes and Coach Stein won't let me, even when I was a backup. And those guys, the practices, the defense, the front, it was never a drill when we were like, oh yeah, this is chill. And that's just to your point, Imoh, how the game has changed. Like I just remember, like, man, like it's Tuesday, Wednesday, it's hard. It was hard.
Every day was a dog fight.
It was hard, man.
Yeah,
like real talk.
absolutely.
Like I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like my son is
iron sharpens iron, right?
Yeah.
No doubt. No, you're right.
You know what I learned? You know what I learned in during my tenure and watching you, Dwight, and playing with you, Ben. It became a thing for me. Like I don't know where it came from, but I was so afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. I was so afraid to not do my job, and for everybody to look at me and say, oh, he's not doing it right, or my fear of failure. Brought out greatness. It brought out the best of me. I won't even say greatness because I don't even know what that's supposed to look like. But it brought out the best in me. Right. And I think we all had some of that to a certain degree. And I think that's got to be a message, especially a coaching message. Man, you probably already told that to your boys. You got to be afraid to fail. Yes. You got to be afraid to fail.
You got to be afraid of something.
It's got to be something that haunts you at night.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was funny that, I've coached middle school and there was a kid, it's a 7th, 8th grade middle school team. And I was pulling him up and, maybe it wasn't appropriate, but he was like kind of shaking, like scared. I was like, you're going to go in the game. He's like, okay. I'm like, what's wrong with you? You all right? He's like, I'm scared I'm going to make a mistake. And I kind of look at him. I'm like, F it. So what?
Yeah.
Go. And the relief that he had on his face, 7th grader, he'd never heard coach, he's probably heard coach speak and he's like,
yeah.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Right.
And go play, man. Just go play and push yourself, and just go have fun with it.
Yeah.
That's actually a great point, Ben, because even when I look at the current state of affairs at Tech and even the last few years of Fuente's era, I felt like sometimes on both offense and defense, they weren't playing so much with confidence. There were certain players that did,
Yeah.
but as a unit, like they were hesitant. Even like, and this is not about back in my day, we were so much better. I'm talking about swag and confidence in general, whether it's back in the day or today's game. When I see the teams that make plays and make game winning plays or a difference between winning and losing, it's the confidence they play with, the effort.
Yeah,
Like I
that's it.
reflected on, when I went, my wife and I, our family, we drove to Philly to see you guys play Temple. Temple was a thorn in our side. During the big, they beat me my senior year. They were a thorn, but even that year when y'all eventually played for the national championship, that first half it was close. And Ben, you made that play. Larry Alston got the pick. Mike ended up getting a big run. Sharon, Andre Davis caught a big. It was like you said, Chad Beasley made a play, whether it was a batting the ball down. I think it's when you, to your point, Ben, you can elaborate a little bit more. That mindset, that effort of like, let me just go, the intelligent recklessness, like Beamer said,
Yeah, controlled recklessness and knowing, you got to take risks. You have to take risks. There's payoffs, and then there's, then you don't get it sometimes, but you've got to do it at some point. And building that confidence and doing it in practice is a lot of times, you do it in practice, and that's what you were talking about earlier. Hard practices, man, brutal. And we did that same schedule. It did not deviate. We had that same schedule for my 4 years. I could probably go through and tell you that exact schedule. It did not change. And Mike, I'm sure it was the same for you too. After we left, because it was tough, man. It was tough. And so,
but let me tell you that. At the same time, while it was tough, wasn't it fun though?
Oh yeah,
so much fun.
No, it was fun.
Like it was so much fun. Like you were going back to the locker room, you're gonna be talking with your teammate, whoever it was, and y'all was gonna go back and forth. Like the competitive atmosphere was so fun. And I think
that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think you got to realize, like, man, you are playing a child's game. You know what I mean? And you can't do it forever. Like, and that swag that you want, that you need to instill, like that happens in practice, having fun. You're not acting like robots. You see what I'm saying?
That's Imoh, that's a great point. That's a great point, because I remember once I knew what I was doing after my sophomore year, I would be going back and forth with Engelberger and all those guys, Corey.
That was your confidence.
But it starts in practice, though. And it starts in practice. And again, I don't want to speak on it because I haven't seen what practices look like. You know what I mean? But like I think that confidence that you need and that swagger is built privately. Yeah. And then it just comes out and shows naturally on Saturdays.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you know? So Imoh, I know you were up here in the 703, and I know you mentioned that you weren't the best out of those guys, Lee Suggs and KJ and all that. But I know you on the humble pie tip. But I'm gonna ask you this question, and Ben, I want you to answer this as well. At the same time, you still were a dog. Like you still made plays in the receiving game, and returning kicks, and also you and Humes, y'all were difference makers, man. We talk a lot about, especially on Twitter, you hear, in the hip hop culture on sports, he's got that dog in him, and he's ready for the smoke. I hear these kids, and even when I see Mike on television with him and Woodson talking about that dog mentality, you and Ben both had it. So Imoh, I ask you this, and then Ben, you can chime in. Where'd you get your dog from? I live in Northern Virginia now. Your son is a dog, and that's a compliment. But where'd you get that dog in you? Was it something in the youth league, something you saw? Did you get humbled one day and said never again? When did that happen for you?
So I'm the youngest of three boys, and like I see what they would do, right? And they were playing football as well, and like this, I knew that was something. I swear to you, it's like there's something just inside of some people. Maybe, and I was one of them. Like there's just competitive. Every inch of me is competitive, and I just wanted to be better than everyone else from a very young age, in whatever I was doing. So I would work at it, and I work hard at it. So it for me. That was something. That dog is just something that some people I think got, and some people don't. And you got me growing up with immigrant parents, not with much. We lived in Northern Virginia, but we were like the poor kids in the rich neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And you know, and I thought to myself, like, this was it. Like, this is the way to get successful, and the only way to do it is by scoring 4 or 5 touchdowns today. So that's what you need to go do.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and the animal was built in that sense.
Yes, sir.
But Mike, Mike, you the thing is, you know, maybe small in stature, but you were always breaking tackles. I mean, that's the energy.
Yeah.
That's the energy that we have. I mean, you would break tackles left, right, and just keep on going. And I think that's, you know, maybe you don't see that as much. I don't know. I'm not seeing it right now. That extra, you know, that power that we're, you know, whatever it is. I'm not seeing that essentially. I mean, I see it maybe some young guys. I do like the Kelly Lawson kid. He's from up around our way. Big long kid.
Yes,
he
21.
played wide receiver. You know, he's playing linebacker for the first time, but he's like 6'5", and I mean, he's trying to get after it. So I see there's spurts, but you know, mine kind of probably came from my dad. My dad was he was old school hardcore. He worked in the coal mines for 15 years and hated every second of it, but he did it because of, you know, for his family. Eventually got out, but he was uber competitive. And I remember one time I got second place in something and got a trophy. He said, "You going to keep that thing?" And, you know, and so, I mean, you know, and I'm trying to balance that type of competitive nature with being a father myself, you know, pushing my own kids and having a father myself. It's hard, you know, I'm trying to do that balance. You know, I think I still do it, but I tell my kids how much I love them, which I don't think that ever happened a lot with my dad. So I'm always telling them I love them, but I'm always trying to chew them out too. So it's, you know, it's that balance that we're trying to play as fathers all the time. So,
yeah, it is a balance, man. And, you know, I hate when people say these kids are different, but to Imoh's point, no matter what era of football, basketball, whatever sport, there is a difference when it comes to people that have it in them. And I just think, you know, there may be coming a moment in your life when you get it, but some players never have it. And you can't manufacture toughness. And for all of us that have sons and daughters that are athletes, or even just raising kids, it's a fine line between helping them be self-sufficient and disciplined, and then knowing when to back off and knowing when to push them. And you know, I think that's just also a skill set from a parental standpoint of like knowing when to push your kid, especially if you're coaching. Like if you coach these young kids now, you know, it's just a different time. I mean, I remember when I played high school football, our coach 50 years. Mike Smith was just flat out crazy. Like we asked for water one time, and he made us crab the whole field for like 5-10 minutes, like 100 yards. But now you have days where they have a cold red and orange. But you know, I'm glad you guys spoke on that, because I think that phrase is used so much. You know, he's got to be a dog, and some guys just don't have it, man. And I'm with you, Ben. I like that Lawson kid a lot. He was the kid that had that play against Georgia Tech, right? With the interception. He was the one that had that play against Georgia Tech with the interception, number 21, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the linebacker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we gonna say something, Imoh, before we jump?
Yeah, I want to ask a question because we got a bunch of fathers here as well, right? Like, how do y'all balance that fine line of exactly what we were just talking about, right? Because like my kids aren't growing up the same way I grew up, and that's just the reality of it, right? And I can't change that, and I wouldn't want to change that. But at the same time, I have to kind of, you know, how do you guys walk that tightrope of letting them be and give them that push at the same time? From you guys being great athletes, I mean great players.
Yeah. I just say this in the short. I know where I come from, and I know they live a different life, but sometimes that got to come out in the household, and I got to let them know. I got to ramp it up a little bit. And you know, my daughter, she always is like, "Yo, you always think you playing quarterback around here. You always trying to run a play. You always trying to put things together." Yes, that's my job until you turn 18. Until you out of here. I'm gonna be calling the plays in this huddle in this house.
Yeah, I'm with him.
On one, ready, break.
I know.
My kids are looking at me like I'm crazy. I can see it now.
Yo, I know for me, Imoh, my 3 kids are all athletes. My youngest is a track standout, and she's in middle school. She did really good, you know, this past season. My only son, my middle child, 6'6" hooper. So he's in a whole different sport. And he's getting interest from D1 schools, and they're getting ready to start basketball. I love. He just won a dunk contest for the second year. I mean, he might end up being like 6'8". Like,
so you don't count in this, Dwight, man. You got kids that you can sit back and just
no. But that question still applies because even my oldest daughter was a standout volleyball player. I think this is a great topic that we could touch on as we even when we're talking as brothers outside of this podcast, because it is a good discussion to have. Because as I coached my son for several years before I took a step back, I realized, like as Ben said, you have to always evaluate yourself. And sometimes I got to challenge him and check him to teach him how to be a man. But then sometimes I got to take a step back and let him learn how to make decisions and learn from his mistakes and also learn from his good decisions. And once he got to a point kind of around 8th or 9th grade, I took a step back and let his coach and other people around me in my village talk to him. Yeah. Because they get tired of your voice. And plus, you're their father. They need to hear from other people. They need to hear from other men, which is important, whether you have a son or a daughter. Get them around other, not just talented people, but insightful coaches and men and women that know what they're talking about and that they respect. Because, like, you know, I played in the late 90s, so, like, me and my son always argue anyway about Curry versus Iverson or Mike versus Lamar Jackson. And, you know, he loves all those guys, but in his generation. So I'm like, you know what? Because I say something to him and he hears it from his coach and it resonates with him when I said the same thing. So it's just that vibe. Yeah, but, you know, Ben, what are your thoughts on Imoh's question?
I tell you what, that's exactly it's a struggle. I shouldn't say struggle because those decisions are being made every day, and having 4 boys as well. I've probably put some pressure on myself because I'm like, you know, and probably I put the most pressure on my oldest, and as you know, as you go down, because I'm at 15, 13, 9, and 4. So I mean, there's a big range there, and you know, you obviously just like when you're teaching a lesson, you know, the first one is going to be rough, but by that, you know, the 3rd or 4th lesson, you kind of got your routine. But I think I read, and I've done a little bit of research because I've read about like the Clay Matthews, you know, their dad and how they raised them and stuff like that. And he always said, you know, he didn't push them too hard, but he would say, you know, I always told them they were my favorite. I told each one they were my favorite, but I never told, you know, so I think it comes back to love, you know, for me, that's what I've kind of come back to. I can still be hard, but then I'm much, I guess, softer than maybe my dad was at different points and talking to them, you know, every night, whatever it is. And so I'm, you know, dog them, you know, if they're not doing what they're supposed to, wear them out. But then I'm always going to come back and tell them I love them and say maybe why I did this. That's
no doubt. No doubt. And and what it comes down to is they might not always like your ways, but they're definitely going to love the results.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to say this. I'm glad we're having this conversation too, because I was out with my son. It was having a birthday extravaganza yesterday. It was at like a carnival, and the psychic, real story, ran up and caught me. She wanted to give me a read. And we talking, and she telling me some things very intriguing. She told me one thing. She said that the lack of love that you got from your father, the lack of attention really hurts you in a lot of ways in your life. And I always told myself I'm not going to be that type of person towards, I'm going to try to spread that love amongst my kids. So even though I want to be hard, I still want to be like the loving, tender person that they can always feel comfortable talking to. And she told me that affected me still in my life. It affects me to this day. And she was true. So yeah, I mean,
wow, that's real.
We all doing a great deed right now.
Absolutely. That's real. Yeah. That's real, actually. That's actually very real.
For sure. It was wild.
No doubt. That's you got me thinking of me. That's real. But no, shout out to all you guys, man, and shout out to all the fathers out there, man, because we know it's a lot of there's a misconception that it's not a lot of us out there, but it is. We got 4 on here right now. You guys are great fathers, and then I see y'all doing it all the time. Ben, I saw Ben up in Sky Zone in Manassas a few years ago, and I mean his sons were there tearing that place up. But in the good way. I was like, he got 4 linebackers on deck right now, man. Like,
all gas, no brakes, baby. All gas, no brakes.
Yeah. But we are in the part of the show that everyone loves. We are now into Hokie Trivia. So this is a very popular segment. We know we're almost done with our show, but this segment is sponsored by Alexandria Restaurant Partners. Alexandria Restaurant Partners was founded in 2015, 16, and 18 with one goal in mind: to be the best in the nation, not the biggest, but by achieving operational excellence, leading with integrity, and being transparent, man. Make sure you check out Alexandria Restaurant Partners at www.alexandriarestaurantpartners.com and learn about careers, private events, and sign up for future offers. They have restaurants in the Orlando area and in the Washington, D.C. area, to include the Majestics, Palette 22, Ada's on the River, and Joe Theismann's restaurants. So, gentlemen, we have 4 questions I'm going to ask each one of you. Each one of you will get the same question. A disclaimer, we had one fan that followed us tweet me saying they got 4 out of 4, but that's what he told me. But we've had some of the best. So we had some of the best players and guys on this show in the Virginia Tech history, from Andre Davis to Antonio Freeman to Chris Ellis, D'Angelo Hall, Ty Washington, and the list goes on, and no one's ever gotten 4 out of 4. We've had 3 out of 4 and 2 out of 4. So if you guys are ready, I'm going to ask these questions. Ben, I will start with you first, then Imoh, then Mike. So the first one, this is a tricky one. Which Virginia Tech punt returner holds the game record for the most return yardage in a single game with a total of 188 yards? So this is like in one game. They had this is a record, single game record, 188 yards. Is it A, Ricky Hall, B, Antonio Freeman, C, Tucker Holloway, or D, Damon Hazelton?
In one game.
In one game, total yards.
I know Tucker just broke some record, but I don't know if it was the longest or if it was total yardage. Oh, man. I know Ricky Hall had some big ones.
I'm going to say Ricky Hall.
So y'all saying Ricky Hall?
Mike and Ben Ricky Hall as well.
Juice.
Okay. So you're going Ricky Hall as well. So you guys, Ben, you talked yourself out the answer. The answer is actually Tucker Holloway. He just broke the record. He has the longest punt return now. As of a few weeks ago against Georgia Tech, he had the 90-yard punt return. Right. And that punt return, along with a few other ones that day, gave him the record with 188 yards against Georgia Tech. Wow. So you had it, and we mentioned Tucker Holloway early in the show. So again, your first gut is usually the right gut. That's why I told you.
Whose record did he beat?
I think it was I don't have it in front of me, and I did these questions last week. So I know I'm usually good at that. That's actually
it wasn't Ricky?
No, it wasn't Ricky. Ricky's up there though.
All right.
It wasn't Ricky. Ricky was up there.
All right.
Let's see if y'all get this one. Which Virginia Tech offensive player holds the season record for the most yards per play with 9.3 yards, a 9.3 yard average? So this player holds the record. We had 9.3, right? This is a season record, okay? Is it Kevin Jones? Is it B, Mike Vick, C, Hendon Hooker, or D, David Wilson?
A, Kevin Jones.
You saying A, Kevin Jones. Mike saying Kevin Jones. All right. Ben?
David Wilson was pretty explosive.
David Wilson. Well, I mean, it's gotta be, you got to think. But I'm like, Mike, you would have had to know if it was you.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm talking about explosive players.
Right? Because that's what I want to say. I want to go with Mike on that one, but
all these are tricky.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go with Mike on that one. That's what my gut tells me.
I'm going Mike.
I'm going. 9 yards per carry.
9.3. So you both are changing your answers to Mike.
Yeah, I'm going Mike, the man.
Okay. You where you going? You going Mike, Imoh?
It can't be Mike though. He would know.
No, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. He just be pulling these out of nowhere.
Yeah, listen, I am the trivia king, boy.
I don't know
what
nothing.
You doing?
What you doing? Guessing. I want to say me, but I know Kevin Jones was a monster.
9 yards per total is a lot.
Everybody on this list is a monster.
Is it 9 yards? So it's 9 yards per rush or 9 yards per play?
Per play. Listen, come on, Ben. You trying these Jedi mind tricks on me. 9.3 average. It's a 9.3 up. All right, so who we saying? Y'all, Mike is saying.
I'm gonna say me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say
Mike.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. So the answer is Mike.
Yeah.
I knew it. I'm saying,
don't overthink it. Don't overthink it.
Hey, listen, Kevin was great.
Trivia.
KJ was something special. I'm trying to tell you. David Wilson also something out of this world.
KJ
was out of this world.
Mike had the season record, but that's not actually the career record. I forgot who has the career record was a yard or two. It was like 10 yards. It was crazy, but Mike is definitely has that record.
Probably would have been higher if he didn't jump over and flip and sprain every ankle every other game. How many flips you got to do and how many ankles you got to sprain? I mean, he probably would have.
It was.
Mike.
It was great records.
Mike inspired Willie Beeman, man. They said, they did that after. They said that movie, Any Given Sunday, they was like, yo, that had to come because you did it against JMU and the movie came out.
I tell you what, that average would have been higher if we didn't try and run the option versus Miami when they were number 2 in the country and Mike had a bum leg. Right?
Exactly.
Speed option.
Speak on it, Ben.
Thank you.
Speed option at that.
I hope Coach
speed option, right.
But I did have daylight. The Red Sea parted. I tried to step on it.
You know what? To this day, what could have been, because you were banged up and Dre was banged up. And y'all had owned Miami. We had owned Miami leading up to that game, man. But what could have been? All right, man. You guys got that one. Like Ben said, don't overthink it. Here we go. Question number 3. Which VT QB holds the record for most passing attempts in the game with 56 attempts? This is the record for most in the game. Is it A, Michael Brewer, B, Ryan Willis, C, Sean Glennon, or D, Don Strock? This is the record for most passing attempts. So let me know the names again.
It's got to be one of the newer guys. We wasn't throwing the ball that many times. There's no way it was going up 50 times in the game.
Oh, no, Don Strock. Don Strock was that dude. I'm going D, Don Strock.
Don Strock.
Don Strock.
He could sling it.
Yeah, he's on a lot of these records, but
who was A and who was B?
A was Michael Brewer, B was Ryan Willis, C, Sean Glennon,
it's one of the two of them.
D, Don Strock. All right.
I'm going with Brewer since he beat Ohio State. He slung it around.
I'm gonna go with that as well.
Okay, you guys are correct. Michael Brewer, he was 30 of 56 against East Carolina, September 13th, 2014.
Mike, who was the most you threw for in the game?
And hold on, before Mike answer that, and Ben, you are correct. That was not the Ohio State game, but it was the game afterwards.
After, guys.
Yeah, we lost that game. But they ended up being down 21. Brewer brought him back, tied at 21. The East Carolina won, I think, 28-21 in Lane Stadium.
Was the quarterback Gardner Minshew for East Carolina and then he transferred out? I think it was Gardner.
You testing my memory now.
I'm
Now, Mike, Imoh was asking you the most attempts that you had at Tech.
Do you remember that?
The most in the game, probably 26, 27. We didn't throw it that much.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's high.
Yeah, I think that was probably the most. I think that was the Sugar Bowl, too.
Okay.
We was down.
Okay. Yeah. You know, it's crazy, man. Mike finished third in the Heisman, probably should have won it. That was a great year with Ron Dane and Hamilton, but I was looking back. I'm a historian. I go back and watch all these things on YouTube on my DVR, and I'm like, yo, Mike, in the first part of that season was more of a game manager, ran the ball, and then he exploded. But we did not pass a lot. Like, my son trips out because he was like, bro, it's 3rd and 6, and y'all running the ball.
It was so crazy. You know what's so crazy? I led the nation in passing efficiency, so I didn't throw a lot of incomplete passes. So that was the one thing they looked at like, I mean, I led the country in passing efficiency, so yeah. We ain't throw it a lot, but when I did,
we did not throw it a lot. But that book was we didn't throw it a lot.
I had Lee Suggs and Chiron. I mean,
I get it.
Yeah, what you gonna do? Lee Suggs and Chiron. That's 3,000 yards rushing right there.
No,
well, I'll tell you, here's a quick story about I think we were in Sugar Bowl practice, and this is when kind of the Clemson revolution, the zone read, and all this kind of stuff was coming up. And I remember in practice they said they were going to, not said, but they put it into the practice plan, a play of the zone read, right? And I was coming off the edge, and I think it was Chiron, and you did the zone read with Chiron. And this first time I'd seen the zone read, and he pulled it, and he was gone. Mike was gone. I didn't know what happened to him. I mean, he was gone like that. And I think you were out the gate. It was in practice at one point. I don't know if you remember this, Mike, but I think you were just experimenting with it. And I mean, it was like, what just happened? What just happened? And I mean, you think if you had been in that type of zone,
Ben.
I mean,
99. Yeah, it would have been 11 yards per play.
Yeah.
Boy, I remember, because we only got one trivia question. Ben, you got my mind spinning, because I remember when Chip Kelly came through, and you saw flashes of it when he was with Andy, but then when Chip Kelly came with that tempo and just the offense, and I was thinking to myself, man, if Cuz had played during the era with the Oregon and all of that, the tempo, man,
it would have been unfair.
It was crazy. I mean, we kind of see it now with Lamar and these other guys, but Ben, that's crazy, man. But anyway, all right, let's see if I can finish on a strong note. Which Virginia Tech kick returner holds the career record for best kick return average with a 26.9 yards per return? So this is 26. Yeah, I know, right? You think about that. Is it Darrell Roberts, Demetrius Knowles, Eddie Hunter, or Khalil Herbert? All kick returners, by the way, no tricks.
Demetrius Knowles.
Okay, Mike's going Demetrius. Imoh, Ben, what y'all got?
Khalil was pretty good. I know that he had several. I mean, he's doing it right now with Chicago.
I'm going with Khalil.
I like Khalil. I like him as well.
So is that who you're going with, Ben?
Yes, I'm going with Khalil.
And you both, Imoh, again, y'all had a good showing.
Damn,
y'all are correct.
Y'all did good. Y'all did really good.
I should have said Tucker Holloway.
Y'all did really good.
Y'all had 3 out of 4. Y'all killed it. Y'all joined Chris Ellis and Cornell Brown as some of the few guys we've had on that's got.
Oh, we had to beat those guys.
Yeah, join them. They got 3 out of 4. But you know what's crazy, man, is Ben, you talked yourself out of Tucker Holloway, man. Man, no. That was fun, man. Great job by you both. So this is the end of the show where we spend the last moments of the show showing love to Hokie Nation, to Hokies in general. This is the segment we do the Hokie shout out. So Ben and Imoh, all 4 of us will give a few minutes, to shout out a coach, a player, someone that influenced you, a professor, someone you may have read about in the news. They just have to be a Hokie, somebody that you want to show love to, or just, shout them out. This is a good segment because we just want to make sure as the kids, as the people say now, give people their flowers while they're here, or if they're gone, either way. We just want to make sure we show them love. So, Imoh, who do you have in mind that you want to give a Hokie shout out to?
Man, I got to give a shout out to Coach Height, man. Got to give a shout out to Coach Height. I saw Coach Height probably about maybe it was like 2 years. I came back for a golf tournament, and I think they were getting ready to move. And but what a great coach, great man, great father. Knew how to get it out of us, right? He knew the right buttons to push, and which buttons not to push as well. And I just really wish him all the well and his family all the well. It's tough. We don't always get a chance to reach out and talk to people, like you said, and give them their flowers. But, I hope Billy's doing all right. And I always hope he's doing all right.
Yeah. Ben, before you go, I ran into Billy Height. I was in Blacksburg for the spring game, and he was doing well, and he was happy. He was around the former players, and just really, really in good spirits. His wife was there, and he's still sharp as a tack, man. He's a great man, and he was definitely influential and a big part of what Virginia Tech football became. He was Beamer's right-hand man, and
it was huge, man.
Yeah, he was huge. That's great.
And like I said, he anchored like 20 years of just absolute stallions, is what we were called. And he did an amazing job. Like he really did. He really did.
Yeah. Ben, who do you have?
I tell you what, I probably got 2 guys, and we all know these guys. And Coach John Boleyn, being truly, he was always the guy behind the curtain, looking out for people and trying to take care of people. Just an awesome individual. Now his daughter is at Tech, so I love seeing that. She's in the recruiting department, I believe. But John Boleyn was just phenomenal. And then a guy that Mike can attest to is Coach Cav. Coach Cav,
Yeah.
Coach Kev, I mean, he was hard, but I mean, he knew when to kind of let it go. And he coached me so I had Coach Foster for 3 years, but the year we went to the national championship, I had Coach Cav because I played weak safety that year. And sitting in his room and just, he was very detailed. He was old school, but he just had a way about himself and how to talk to people. And you talk about somebody who was instrumental as well. I mean, those guys, Coach Height, no question, but Coach Cav getting you, Mike, and really that 757. I mean, those connections that he made in that whole area, and he just a great guy, just an awesome individual. So those are two that are kind of maybe unsung kind of guys that didn't get a lot of hype.
Great shout outs. Coach Cav. Coach Cav, phenomenal dude, man.
Coach Cav was amazing. He recruited me, came down into my area. Him and Coach Weymann at 8 o'clock, and I'd always tell a story. Came into the hood, man. They came into the hood at 8:30 at night, man, with suits on, recruiting, and that was amazing. My Hokie shout out is Maurice Deshay, so I'm taking it back. Maurice was one of the quarterbacks in the early '90s for Virginia Tech, who I feel like paved the way. Great human being, very humble, and always got a smile on his face, and really was one of the guys who I looked at. Even though I didn't know where Virginia Tech was or, what, they ranked in college football at the time, I was just watching V-Tech, and I seen a quarterback with number 12 on playing really hard, man, and putting in that work. And I got a chance to meet him on a personal level. He lives in the 757 area, and just a great human being. So he was one of the guys when I went to Virginia Tech, I knew I had big shoes to fill coming behind him, Jim Druckenmiller, and Al Clark.
Great shout out. Yeah, Maurice was another guy that would have benefited like you, Mike, in the modern era of college football. He was kind of ahead of his time because he was definitely a dual threat, and he had that great season that started a bowl streak. And the following year was my redshirt year, and he was a dark horse candidate for the Heisman. And we went a change in coordinators, and that always affects people. You said it around the country every year on all levels. And we went from Coach Bustle to Coach Gary Tranquil, who was a great offensive mind. He was coming from the pros, and we struggled that year to kind of put it all together. We still had a great season. We finished second in the Big East, but Maurice didn't have the year he had his junior year, but he still left as a Tech great. And great shout outs for all you guys. And I'll just end this segment with 2 shout outs. One, I want to give a shout out to somebody that we always remember, but we sometimes don't mention him because it was back as Virginia Tech was ascending, and that's the great AD and Jim Weaver. I was a redshirt junior when Jim Weaver came from University of Florida and Penn State, and he addressed the team. I will never forget, he told us, you guys are not ready to play for a national championship, but I will eventually make sure we eventually do. And we were all like, yo, who's this dude coming in here? And he was very straightforward and honest. He said the facilities were not up to par, but he came from a big program, and he told us that this team will play for one. And that was in 97. And then you think about it, 2 years later, you saw the buildings getting built. And then the next thing you know, Ben, Mike, you guys took us to a national championship game. So Jim Weaver also was a big, and along with those guys at Tech, getting us into the ACC. And he had a great tenure as an AD. And he passed away a few years ago, man, but I will never forget Jim Weaver. Even when he was sick, I would see him at Tech when I went up for games, and he would give me a hug, shake my hand, ask how the family was doing. And I just wanted to make sure he was mentioned today in our show because he was huge and instrumental in helping us transition as a program. And the other shout I want to give as we wrap up, man, is to our fans out there, man. Hokie Nation, I swear you hear these guys on shows, they say, oh, we got the best fans. We got the best fans. And I'm telling you right now, yo, Tech fans are still all in. When you have a team that's lost 7 straight and they still showing up to jump up and down to the Intersand, man, they traveled to Duke last weekend, and they are a fan base that when we get this thing right again, they deserve all the credit because they show up for basketball, they show up for wrestling, they show up for softball, they show up at FedEx, and they love this show. They love guys like you guys, Imoh and Ben and Mike. They never forget. I was at Tech for the spring game. I took 30-some pictures, signing autographs. I ain't played since DJ Clue was putting out mixtapes. You know what I'm saying? And they still show love. So shout out to Hokie Nation for supporting us, man. And
For sure.
Imoh and Ben, shout out to you too, man, for joining us, man. I know we had to appreciate you guys being
flexible.
Shout out to
both of y'all, man. Two of my
Appreciate y'all having us,
all
man.
time.
Yeah,
Appreciate y'all having us.
Yes, thank you
man.
so much.
Thank you so much, man. And you guys keep doing what you're doing as fathers, taking care of your family, keep making a difference. Ben, keep coaching, keep leading. Imoh, keep doing great things. I called you yesterday. You sounded professional. You put that professional voice on, and you got to me. Like, hey, what's good? So you code switched on them, man. Just like you used to shake them in Lane Stadium, man. So thank you, Hokie Nation. Like we say every episode, man, support them Hokies. This may be the last game. Make sure you support UVA and all their efforts to recover from that tragedy. We're praying for them. They are a rival, but they're our brothers off the field. Praying for those families, man. And if you're going to be traveling to Liberty, be safe. If you're watching on TV and you at a bar, drink responsible. And again, thank you guys. Like we say every episode, man. Go Hokies.
Go Hokies.